Jake, I'm going to start this conversation with a pronouncement that you are the greatest baseball player in TCU history. What's your reaction to that?
It's surprising. I don't. I don't know if I can confirm or deny that. It's when things like this come up, and I've been asked things like, "Do you think that your number should be retired in Chicago?" It's just humbling to even be asked that question. Um, so I don't really know how to answer that question. I really don't. Again, humbled to even have it brought up. So I guess I'd have to look at all, the former players and, analyze some stats. But, I know I had a couple good years. I can definitely say that.
Well, when you think about the travel to get to TCU, you start at Plano East. You originally signed with Oklahoma State, is that right? And then ended up at Weatherford.
I
Am I right
did.
on this?
Yeah. So I was trying to navigate that process to the best of my ability with my family and with some advisors. I knew that I was going to have an opportunity to play at the next level, whether that was college at a Division I level, junior college level, or potentially signing with a Major League Baseball team and entering the farm system. And my path was unordinary. I signed with Oklahoma State. I went to orientation, and my wife, Brittany, actually, was going to go to Oklahoma State as well. We were both very excited about that. And then the draft kind of changed things. I ended up not signing with the Reds in 2004. I thought that the best option for me would be to go to a junior college, develop a little bit further for a season, and then go from there. So went to Weatherford, got a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, still didn't know how to pitch very well. Was throwing really hard, had a usable changeup, and had a nice curveball that I couldn't throw for strikes. After that year, I was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers, and I believe it was the 26th round. And they made an offer that was fairly difficult for me to turn down. I remember having the guy that drafted me in my kitchen with my mom and dad, and we're, figuring out how we're going to say no to that amount of money. We ultimately did. I went to the Texas Collegiate League, where just by sheer luck, I was seen by Jim Schlossnagle after a really nice outing. He was there to actually see one of our closers pitch that game. He wasn't even there to watch me throw. And I believe I ended up throwing a shutout. Schlossnagle didn't get to see that arm throw at the end of the game. And it was like a movie moment. He basically offered me a scholarship, on the spot. I was on one side of the chain link fence. He was on the other. And I was in disbelief. But what he said to me was that, our Friday night guy, Lance Broadway, just walked off campus, and we're looking for a guy to come in and fill that spot. And I'm like, he wants me to be that guy. It's amazing how things changed and how quickly things developed. But fortunately, I was able to get that done. I signed my letter of intent and wore that beautiful uniform for 2 years.
The backside of that story that a lot of folks don't know is that there had to be a trade worked. It was almost like a straight up National League trade, wasn't it? Where you had to get a waiver from Oklahoma State to go to TCU. TCU had a player that Oklahoma State wanted in Shelby Ford, who was leaving TCU, ended up having a decent career. And the
Yeah.
two teams sort of had to swap waivers, right, in order for you to land in Fort Worth.
And then it's surprising to me that had to happen because, because I went to Weatherford, and I was uncertain, and I didn't even know about all the legalities and the
Yeah.
things that had to happen in order for me to get on campus. But yeah, we were able to get it done. thankfully, because I know that there's times and there have been things in the past where players haven't been able to get to a certain campus because of certain restrictions. So fortunately enough, we were able to get that done, and my TCU career started.
That sophomore year, Jake, was magical. Lead us through that, and when you started realizing, man, I've got something here, and we've got something here at TCU.
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't necessarily know how far I was able to take it. I knew I was very confident in my abilities. I knew that when I walked onto campus and we started going through our period, our progression leading up to the season, I knew that I was going to have an opportunity to be, one of the starters. And, Slosh told me, he wanted me to come in and be the Friday night guy. And I'm like, that would be great. But we had some really nice arms. I didn't initially believe that was going to happen. But I was able to kind of fine tune things and dial things in fairly quickly. And it became fairly evident and obvious that I was going to be that guy. And once I realized that, okay, I have the ability to do this. Let's see how far we can take this. That was my only goal, was to be as good as possible for my team every single time I took the mound. And I know there were times where I think we were in Norman playing OU on a Tuesday, and I actually came out of the pen, I believe, one time. We ended up losing the game, I think, in extra innings. One of my favorite games in my career. We lost that game, but just the way it transpired and how it brought us close together as a team after that loss was truly amazing. And I learned how to be not only a great player at TCU, but a great teammate. And that's part of the evolution. That's part of the maturation process. And I don't think it would have happened the way it did. And I don't think I would be the guy that I am if I weren't to go to TCU. And I tell people this all the time. You're able to learn how to be a good teammate if you go from high school to the minor leagues and then progress to the big leagues. That is possible. But I don't think that you're able to learn that in the same way as you would if you were to go to a 4-year university and play for an opportunity to go to a regional, super regional, and then on to the College World Series. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that during my time at TCU. But I learned how to be a team player, and what that meant to be as good of a teammate as you possibly can. And I benefited over the course of my career in the minor leagues and in the big leagues because of that at TCU.
You started stacking up accolades too. You were Mountain West Conference Pitcher of the Year that year. Then the junior year, you helped lead the USA to the gold down in Cuba, which Schlossnagel as your coach, and that had to be an amazing experience. You get drafted 5th round by the Orioles, and thanks to your play and Scotty Boras, you set a record for what you signed for. I mean, things were starting to stack up for you at that point. And then was there, once you got to professional baseball, would you say that things slowed down for a bit for you?
Well, they continue to escalate very quickly throughout the minor leagues. I jumped the ranks, on a pretty escalated scale. So my first year in the minor leagues, I signed late. I went to the fall league without any minor league experience that year. Matt Wieters and I went to our extended season team, the Aberdeen Ironbirds, and we traveled with them for about 2-3 weeks at the end of the season. The organization wanted to acclimate us to the travel and being, with a minor league team, but we didn't play. We just, we threw bullpens and we got to know the guys on the team, and that was a very, very fun experience. So then after that, I went to the fall league, played for the Phoenix Desert Dogs. We ended up winning the fall league, which is really cool to do. Reminded me of my experience at TCU. Just, it is the fall league, but everybody wanted to win. We had a
Yeah.
really, really nice team. So I threw 16 innings out of the bullpen. I didn't start any games. They wanted to monitor my innings, but I threw 16 scoreless. So, I was already showing myself that, hey, like these are the best prospects in Major League Baseball, or at least a big group of them. And I just threw 16 scoreless in the pen, so my confidence has always been there, but it just kind of continued to build and build. And then I went to Frederick, High A, my first full season. I pitched all the way up until July. I went to the Futures game. I threw an inning of the Futures game in Old Yankee Stadium. Fortunately, I was able to toe that mound before they tore it down. I still can't believe they did that, but I got to throw in Old Yankee Stadium, and then I was selected to the national team, and I got to go play in Cuba.
Yep.
For that. Which was I'm sorry. That was with Slosh in 06. Then in 2008, we went to Beijing for the Olympics, which we won. We won a bronze medal. We didn't go home empty-handed, fortunately. We played some amazing teams. The first game, we had Strasburg throw, and I think he gave up 4 or 5 runs to Cuba. And this is when he was throwing 102 miles an hour. And we were just amazed with the ability of this Cuban team to hit the way they did. So, first full season, I get to go to the Futures game. I get to play in the Olympics. I go to Beijing, and we were there for like 3 weeks or so. Then 2009, I come out. I start in AA. I was there for, I believe, a month, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. And I had like a 1.2 ERA. I was pitching very, very well. I hit my first sign of adversity in the minor leagues that season in AAA. Right. I think I had, a mid 3, maybe a high 3, which isn't bad by really anybody's standards. But for mine, I expected to go there and just dominate right away. But once I got to AAA in 2009, I'm pitching against major league players that are either rehabbing or, there's guys that are up and down. And it was an awakening for me. I showed some adversity. I was able to overcome some of it mentally and physically. And then in 2010, I restarted the season in AAA, was there until right around the second week of June, and then made my debut June 10th of 2010. But you're right. There was a lot of adversity. There was a lot of adjusting that needed to take place. I had a decent rookie year. The ERA was slightly elevated. And then in 2011, I believe I won 10 games, but it was just, I would throw a good game. I would have 2 bad games. I would have 2 good ones and then 3 bad ones. So I wasn't able to find that consistency that I was looking for. And not only that I was looking for, that the organization was looking for. So then I bounced around a little bit. I went up and down. On that, on that kind of, that bus back and forth. And that was a difficult thing for me to handle mentally for a while. But I finally got to a point where I realized that whether I'm pitching in the big leagues or in AAA, the only thing I can control is the way that I approach each outing. And let's go out there and let's try and fight and compete to the best of our ability. And if we do that, we can deal with the results.
So then 2015 comes, and the world knows about Jake Arrieta. The world found out about him. You get to 15 wins faster than anybody. Hit the Dodgers. Everybody knew about that. You win the Cy Young, and then I'm thinking to myself, man, he just had a great year. How do you top that? And then you find a way in 2016 with the Cubs and the World Series. Condense those 2 for me. What was that run like, man, those 2 years?
Well, you know what? It really started for me in 2014. It was kind of my coming out party. So to finish 2013, I made a couple starts after the trade. in Des Moines, Iowa, for the AAA team there with the Cubs. I
Yep.
came up at the end of the year. I made a handful of starts. I had a mid-3, so I was pitching pretty well. I was starting to get that confidence back that I had at TCU and that I had in the minor leagues. 2014, I kind of bust on the scene. Like, people knew me from being a big prospect and being with the Orioles. And I had a nice year. I think I finished with a 2.5. I had some Cy Young votes. I think I was in the top 10 in Cy Young. Maybe it would have been a little bit higher if I had done it another year previous. But then you're right. In 2015, I was laser focused, and I knew I was back to where I was in 2006 at TCU. That's the mindset that I was in, and now I felt like, okay, I gotta show everybody once again who Jake Arrieta is and what I'm capable of. And having that confidence, it doesn't guarantee success like the way that I experienced it in 2015 or 16, but it definitely helps. So, and my only goal was to go out there and do everything I could to be our ace, to be a stopper. If we, had a stretch of 3 or 4 games where we lost and it was my chance to take the ball and toe the slab, there was no way I was going to allow this team to lose another game. And that run, it was a dream. It was almost like things were just, you just hit play and things just happened. And things just unfolded like you envisioned in your mind. And there were times where I was, kind of in disbelief, but not that I didn't think that I was capable of it. It was just, friends and family and teammates and competitors. Everyone would come up to me and be like, man, what are you doing? Like, how are you doing this? And I didn't really have a great answer for them. I was just, my routine was locked in. My bullpens it was like a video game. And that's kind of how the games were. It started with preparation and confidence, and the results just somehow were what they were. And it's hard for me to put into words. It really is.
Folks have Jake Arrieta memories that will last a lifetime. Many of them, we'll talk about the Cy Young or the no hitter against the Dodgers. Many of them, they're going to remember you at the plate with the 3-run home run, the 2 wins in the World Series for the Cubs. And then you have people who walk up to you and they know Jake Arrieta from the body issue of ESPN the magazine. What's that like?
Yeah. I get a lot of questions about that. They ask if, were you fully nude, and was it difficult to do that? And the answer to both of those was yes. I didn't know there was going to be, 30 or 40 people around. Photographer, there's 4 different camera angles, but they made you feel really comfortable. It was a cool experience. And my wife was the one that said, look, if you have the opportunity to do this, you got to do it. So I couldn't turn it down. Looking back and seeing, there's just a really cool shot. I'm throwing off of a mound in the middle of the desert somewhere, barefoot. And I'm at full extension. Obviously you can't see anything, thankfully. But the glove is tucked, the right leg is up in the air, and it's just, we've got it on a big poster board, and it's just a very, very cool picture. And my son loves it, my family and friends love it. So tough to do at first, but like I said, everybody made you feel very comfortable, and it's one of those memories that my kids can look back on, I can look back on in 20, 30 years and be grateful that I was able to be a part of something like that.
Jake, you had an amazing career in baseball. As we said at the top of this, the greatest baseball player in the history of TCU. You've gone on to a terrific career in the podcasting world. You've been great at that, tremendous following. But I got to ask you, how humbling was it when you received the call that you were in the TCU Hall of Fame? What did that feel like?
Well, it's not something that I ever even thought about. And I know that might sound crazy, but I don't think I didn't have the longevity and quite pristine enough stats to get into the MLB Hall of Fame. I had a nice career, but to get that phone call, it just kind of confirms, certain things I was able to do in my career, and to be recognized and acknowledged by such a prestigious university. And it's hard to put into words exactly how humbling, but TCU's been around for a long, long time, and there have been some incredible players, come through there and do amazing things, before me and after me. And it's been just amazing to watch, continue to watch these young players grow into amazing men and competitors, and then move on to the major leagues and do great things. So I just think it's most special for my family, and obviously for me, but just to have that conversation with my kids, and to see the excitement and the enjoyment on their face, does everything for me. And I can't wait for that night. I can't wait for that weekend to stand up there and to say a few words, and just to thank everybody that has followed me along the way and been a part of my career, not only at TCU, but all the way up into the end. Truly special. It really is, Brian.